Dr. Haynes, you know, part of the reason why we wanted to have you on today is sometimes it gets lost on how important Americans need to have an emphasis on paying attention on what's going on overseas. I know we have a lot going on here, but I wanted you to come here and explain why, as we heard also from Congressman Eric Swalwell a few blocks ago, why Vladimir Putin is as dangerous a threat to America as he's currently posing to not only Ukrainians, but frankly, to the rest of Europe.
Thank you so much, Katie. It's wonderful to be here. So that's a great question. The connection between foreign policy and national security are very real. And in a sense of Russia, this is a question that I get asked a lot, like, why should we care? Why should we care? Because right now, we are in a very real tense battle between democracy and authoritarianism. They're literally on the opposite side of the seesaw. That's where we are. It's one type of way of living your life versus another way of living your life that includes being subjected to the state. And why it matters is because people are aligning with the way that Trump and his ilk are thinking. Authoritarianism is not just some lofty ideal. It is right around the corner. It is right around the next election. So what is happening in Russia, let's put aside Ukraine, because that also affects us here too, right? Let's put that aside for a moment. And let's just talk about what happens if democracy fails in this country. The freedoms that we enjoy, they may be imperfect, but they will completely evaporate. And Katie, I got to say, for people that look like us, we won't fare well in an authoritarian regime.
That is totally true. Doctor, I did want to say Alexei Navalny, the most prominent critic of Russian President Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin. What's left now of the opposition movement now that Navalny, according to his family, has been murdered?
Right. So first point is Alexei Navalny died a patriot for his country and for democracy, first and foremost. And secondly, this is a spark. This is a spark in a very old country like Russia. I want to contextualize this sort of symbolism of what Navalny represents for the opposition in Russia. In very old cultures, symbolism, martyrs mean a great deal. I mean, Russia can be dated all the way back to 882. That's just how old this place is. So while he lost his life, and keep in mind, he knew that would happen when he left Germany, he decided to go back to Russia. So this spark, this symbolism, is perhaps what will get more Russians involved, even under the threat of the state, which they are facing just as we speak. People who are out just mourning the loss of Navalny, they are being rounded up and arrested, and the entire world is seeing this. And then secondly, Navalny was not the only opposition leader. There are other opposition leaders that are also in jail. So this movement, while Navalny was definitely the global face of it, he was not alone. There are still opposition leaders that are still in jail right now.
And to your point, Doctor, right now, the Russian monitoring group OVD Info has reported at least 340 people have been detained across Russia at Navalny memorial rallies that are taking place right now, with the majority of those arrests happening in St. Petersburg. We've heard from President Biden. We've heard from other world leaders. What do they need to do to be able to make sure that there is accountability for the death of Alexei Navalny?
That's a great question, and this is part of the difficulty. Again, when you have a regime where there's no accountability, when there's one person who wants to be king and everyone else is a subject, it's really challenging to get that person to operate within the international system of norms. There are many people who will push back and say that there technically isn't a viable international system, but there are levers that can be pulled. But the thing is, will Vladimir Putin even pay attention to the ICC possibly, charging him with crimes? It's about the fact that authoritarians, dictators, they have nearly absolute power. And this is the problem. How would he be held accountable? Well, the best thing to say is to vote, because voting is coming up in Russia. in which some people say that this is why Navalny died, is because he was the opposition leader that stood out and that people wanted to have him on the ballot also. So all of Putin's real competition is completely obliterated with Navalny off the ballot now. So this is a unique situation, and how will he be held accountable? I don't know, but I want to go back to Ukraine for a second. It's imperative for Vladimir Putin to be stopped here. He cannot win. Ukraine has to win, because if he does win, he will keep going. And he's been talking a lot about Poland, and that makes me very nervous. In many ways, since the beginning of this thing, you know, everyone said this is very reminiscent of 1939, and it is. And that's the scary part. That's what's at stake, not just for the U.S., but for the entire world. This isn't a game.